Okay, let's get back into this a little bit. I think he does have a lot of interesting insights, and we'll get
They're
back to it.
just running an agenda that's very self-referential, and it is not in our best interest at all to sit silently by and allow these people to hijack what's going on, the narrative of this country. And I'll tell you further
Already happening.
that I believe that if we don't speak up, this I call it the tyranny of the fringe. I think if we don't speak up, they're going to hijack
You can even hear
and
somebody
start
laugh in the
taking over. They're
background
going
on
to
that
take
one.
over language. They're going to take over priorities uh, and how those priorities are pursued. And I hear them talking about things that I think could absolutely undermine society, like this equality of outcome concept. To me, I can't think of anything more destructive to a society than teaching everybody that we're going to work towards an equality of outcome. That's been tried. We've got 100,000 corpses to prove that doesn't work. And so I think that uh, we've been just same in America and in Canada. It's been built on a meritocracy where
Okay, I'm gonna stop him right there. Only because, for the most part, I agree, but it has to be said that the people who are in charge now are the same who were in charge 100 years ago. Before that, we had some freedom. We actually had some choice. Um, Politicians tended to be more for the people. I mean, just remember that Abraham Lincoln was kind of the start of the Republican Party. So look at how far they have fallen. Look at how far the Democratic Party has fallen. It's all corrupt. None of them have any fair stake in the game. They are just moving pawns around on the board. And so long as we're all pawns, nobody gets ahead. Well, I guess I should say nobody from a lower tax bracket will ever get ahead unless you win the lottery or invent something great, but you're not going to be able to survive and eke out an existence worth having on the bare minimum that companies can legally pay you. That's how they work, you know. I worked as a manager, and I was paid the lowest rate allowed by state law for that position. And believe me when I say I busted my butt for that job. All right, we'll get back into it here. Let's see, where is he going with this?
hard work was rewarded, talent was rewarded, added value was rewarded. And now all of a sudden, we're violating some of the most fundamental principles of the psychology, like just simply don't reward bad behavior. Don't support things you don't want to see more of. I mean, this is Psych 101, but it seems like people skip that course. It seems like those that are trying to run some of these agendas don't understand that you have to have an insight into how people are motivated, what gets them passionate, what gets them moving forward. And when I see these things happening, I say, well, somebody's got to step up and call this out for what it is, which is lunacy. And but we're people are three times as unwilling to speak up now as they were in 1950. I mean, the number of people unwilling to take the risk has tripled since 1950.
Okay, so let me walk through these things again. I'll lay out a bit of
Whoa,
my
hey,
understanding, and then if you could push back and elaborate on that, that would be helpful.
thanks,
So
camera.
it seems to me, with regard to family, so human beings are unique biologically because of the unbelievably extended dependency period of our children. And so we have a particular reproductive strategy Other creatures have that reproductive strategy to some degree, but we are the ultimate exemplars of low reproductive rate, high investment strategies. And it seems to me that the corollary of that is that raising children is sufficiently challenging and difficult and also important that one person can't do it well on average. And so the rule seems to be both morally and perhaps social arrangement that allows for propagation. It's something like that. And so if we fragment the family below the level of the nuclear, then things fall apart.
Of course,
Maybe
you
the
can't.
nuclear family is
You
also
can't
too fragmented, but
have as solid
we
of
could
a
start with it
family
as a
with
basis. And so
one parent
any
in the home.
attempt to, for example, put forward the claim that all familial structures are of equal value is counterproductive if it's the case that raising children is so complex that a minimum of two people have to engage in it. So that's on the family side.
Okay. Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, yes, ideally you need two parents in the home, and that is definitely the way to go. But to be fair, a lot of scenarios don't allow for that. But why shouldn't people be able to afford childcare to get out and work a good job? I mean, the cost of living is so high, it's not like childcare alone is out of control. It's not like that's the only thing that's gotten exponentially worse. Everything is more expensive. Everything is. And only for the reason of greed. There is no reason to believe that it suddenly costs 100 times as much to produce your product than it did 20 years ago. There's just no way to believe that aside from greed. That is, I want more for the product I'm selling. I want more for the materials I'm using to make that product, going down the line. And obviously, when those people start demanding more money, then your groceries and everything else start getting more expensive, and then the wage has to go up. But the problem is that the cost of goods has increased in a lot of cases by 100, 200%, while our minimum wage has been increased, let's say from, I would say the early 90s, we were at probably a $5 an hour minimum wage, to now we're pushing toward $15 an hour, and that is a 200% increase. I can admit that freely, but the cost of goods has gone up 200% in the past 5 years, and probably, very possibly, on some products has gone up as much as 1,000% over the past 30 years. So how can we say that we are moving forward if the wealth gap continues to increase so much? It's not right. I'm not going to go full socialist here or anything, but it's not right for the upper 3% of society, the 3% at the top tier control 90% of the wealth in the world. We're wage slaves, folks. Your freedom is perceived nonsense. You don't really have choice. Most things are being chosen for you by algorithms these days. And free will is about all you've got left. But man, that is being manipulated by AI and algorithms, and you are just getting sucked right into doing whatever they want you to do. And on top of that, we are all fighting each other.